Welcome, dear listeners, to a tale that unravels the unexpected twists life often throws our way. Imagine this: a bustling royal guard post, tourists marveling at the stoic guards standing firm in their duty, and then a ripple of chaos breaks through the calm. A group of friends daring each other to push boundaries steps into the scene, but what starts as harmless mischief soon spirals into something far more profound. Today's story invites you into a moment where arrogance meets humility, danger brushes against courage, and an unlikely bond is forged. So settle in, because this is one journey you won't want to pause. Let's begin. After this rich man and his friend group RP arrived at the Royal Guard post, they soon became the center of attention. The group was fooling around and dared each other to annoy the Royal Guard standing watch. Eventually, that was exactly what the rich man did, but he didn't expect what would happen. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. It all seemed like any other regular day at the Royal Guard. A large crowd of tourists had already formed and were taking pictures of the motionless guards. While watching, the tourists made sure not to cross the line chalked on the ground, respecting the guards' duty. But that situation would soon change, because a sudden commotion broke the pleasant and calm mood of the crowd. It started off small with some yells, but soon it caught traction and multiple screams could be heard. People at the front of the group turned their heads from the guards to see what was going on, like they could see the crowd stepping aside and making room for something or someone. And then a group of 4 men appeared. They were pushing their way through the crowd while fooling around with each other, not paying any attention to their surroundings. But one man stood out in particular. One of them walked in front of the other 3. His chest was puffed up, and his arms were wide. The man in front was called Dwayne, and he and his friends had seen the Royal Guards from a distance and instantly knew what to do. They had been mocking and daring each other to annoy the Royal Guard on their way here, and Dwayne was the one that actually dared to do it. Dwayne stepped over the line the crowd had stood behind and confidently approached the Royal Guard Gay. At first, he posed beside him so his friends could take a picture, but after that, the obnoxious behavior started. He made weird faces and fooled around, knowing the guard had to stay motionless. But it didn't stop by making weird faces and trying to get the guard to laugh. Wayne's friends yelled and cheered him on as his behavior worsened, and he moved around the guard, stepping closer and almost touching him. Backing off at the last moment, he turned around and laughed at his friends, but then when Dwayne turned back to face the guard, a voice roared over the crowd's murmurs. "Stand back for the King's Guard!" the guard shouted. The sudden noise from the otherwise silent and motionless guard startled Dwayne, causing him to take a few steps back, but he recovered in a split second. Wayne realized this was the only thing the guard could do, as long as he didn't over-exaggerate his behavior. The fact that the guard used this warning meant Dwayne's behavior annoyed him, which was everything Dwayne needed to know. B continued his behavior, not knowing he would soon be in trouble. Dwayne even dared to go one step further. He approached the guard again and put his fists up, moving rapidly and throwing some fine punches while imitating the sounds of the blows landing. He turned around with his hands up as if he were victorious. His friends cheered and laughed, but the crowd booed him. "Do your worst. Your hate can't hurt me," he exclaimed as he waved his arms. "Do you even know who I am? I'm rich beyond your imagination and have my own guards because I'm that important." Dwayne answered the jeers. Like before, Dwayne got close to the Royal Guard to annoy him as much as possible. The background noises were drowned out as she focused on himself and the guard, but because of his focus on, he heard something that made the hairs on his neck stand up. He stared at the Royal Guard. Had the guard just whispered something to him? Dwayne's body was tensed up from the moment, and he shook his arms and legs to regain control. After that, he stepped closer to the guard again. His friends cheered him on, and the crowd booed, still thinking he was mocking the guard. He took a deep breath, and the mumble slowly turned into words. The words formed a few sentences, which the guard repeated constantly. Even though Dwayne focused on the words and sentences, it took him some time to understand the meaning, but when he did, he stumbled back a few paces. Any sign of confidence was gone as his face had turned pale and he expressed fear. Meanwhile, his mind was racing, processing what he had just heard from the guard and trying to figure out what to do. His friends yelled at him, asking what was going on. Then Dwayne finally moved as he took his phone out of his pocket. He carefully whispered into the phone, making sure nobody could hear what he said, and then ended the call. Wayne then nodded to the Royal Guard, who responded inconspicuously. He gathered his final thoughts and took one last deep breath before turning around to face the crowd. When Dwayne reached his friends, they immediately asked him about the situation. "What is going on? Are you too scared to continue?" Dwayne's friends stared at him in confusion, but realized he wasn't going to explain what was happening. Still, some people in the direct vicinity, overhearing his whispers, did want to ask him, so go on to change offers that, but before they could approach Dwayne and demand answers there, was a commotion coming from the center of the crowd. At first, people pushed each other, and a few fell over, but soon different people started screaming. Slowly, an area free of people formed in the middle of the crowd. As sudden as the calm motion and the screaming started, so sudden they stopped and made way for gasps. "Itches make place, give us some room," a voice shouted from within the crowd, a voice Dwayne recognized. Slowly, the crowd moved aside, and the circle of people opened up so Dwayne could see what was going on. Dwayne's eyes grew wide when he saw the scene before him, but a feeling of relief quickly washed over him. An unknown man was being held to the ground by two big men in suits. "Good job, guys," he said triumphantly, giddy. "I knew I could count on you. I wasn't worried one bit." A loud groan was heard, and Wayne looked at the man on the ground who was struggling to break free from his captors. "As you can see, my guards have everything under control. The thread will be sent to the police," Wayne said, not knowing things would soon be different. "But who is he? How did you know what happened?" The question sounded from the crowd. The smile on Dwayne's face grew increasingly larger. He was enjoying this moment very much. He pointed toward the Royal Guard and told the crowd the crow the guard had notified him of the incoming threat. Murmurs went through the crowd as their faces turned toward the Royal Guard. Dwayne spoke again to get the attention back. "The guard knew about my security detail and asked me to solve this problem discreetly." The guard's stale and motionless face suddenly showed fear and worry, and for the first time, the guard moved. The guard tackled him, causing Dwayne to hit the ground hard and scream. "Get off of me!" he exclaimed, frustration drenched in his voice. He had done exactly what the Royal Guard had asked him to do. Was this what he got for helping out? But then his thoughts were interrupted by a loud bang-in, and panic ensued again. Dwayne pushed the Royal Guard off him to get up and see what happened, but as he looked in the direction of his security guards, his heart skipped a beat. It seemed that the floored man managed to get one hand free, and he was holding a gun. The sound had been a gunshot. The man swung his hand around, but the guards recovered quickly after hearing the sound and grabbed the gun. Dwayne ensured things were safe now and looked around to see if anyone was hurt. Then he suddenly realized the guard tackled him because he saw the danger. Dwayne went to thank the guard up, but if the guard was still lying on the ground where he had tackled Dwayne, the man was, lying motionless, and Dwayne had the second fright in a short time. Why was he still lying there? Was he hurt? Dwayne hurried toward him and knelt down, and what he saw made his eyes widen. The guard was groaning heavily and held his shoulder in a tight grip. "What is it?" Dwayne asked as he helped the guard upright. The man screamed, and Dwayne could see that the guard was bleeding heavily from his shoulder. M was hit. Dwayne grabbed his phone and called for an ambulance. While they waited for the ambulance to arrive, Dwayne did his best to stop the bleeding. When the ambulance finally arrived, the guard was taken to the hospital immediately. As Dwayne was cleaning his hands, a wave of emotions hit him. He had treated the man disrespectfully, and the guard still saved him. Dwayne tried everything, but the medical officers didn't want to let him through and forced him to wait in the waiting room. And after an hour, the doctor finally showed up. The doctor's face was emotionless, and Dwayne couldn't read anything about it but remained hopeful. The doctor started by saying that the guard would be fine, and a wave of relief washed over Dwayne, but it was real close. The doctor added, and Dwayne realized this could have ended way differently. DNE felt incredibly guilty and wouldn't have been able to live with himself if things had turned out differently. He waited around until he was allowed to visit the guard. Once he sat beside the men, Dwayne expressed his most profound apology for his behavior and thanked the guard from the bottom of his heart. The guard groaned as he tried to sit upright and smiled when Dwayne immediately got up to help. And it's all part of the job, the guard said, but Dwayne shook his head, not accepting the response. I promised to change my behavior, he said, explaining this moment had opened his eyes. After the initial visit, Dwayne would return often to support the guard during his recovery, and the two got to know each other well. When the guard was out of the hospital, they would meet up, and he helped Dwayne live up to his promise to better his behavior, and slowly a friendship was born.